Hey, good morning, Eastern Oregon, and welcome to this September 12th version of AM Live on EOA, your connection to Eastern Oregon, and all of our content can be found on the EOA.network. That URL literally takes you to a link tree where you can see all of the different locations of where our stuff can be found. And here in a bit, we're going to have Union County Commissioner Paul Anderes with us. So, how are you, man?
So all those locations are Instagram, Facebook, Roku, Spotify, and then there's also a link to Coffee, which is an app essentially, or a website where you can donate to EOA Live. If you like our content or whatever, you can go there and help out with us bringing content to you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How are you, man?
I'm good. First Friday.
First Friday.
Yeah,
it's raining.
crummy.
Yeah.
It's the worst, man. I hate rain. I hate snow.
You don't like the rain?
No.
So
I lived on the west side for, a long time,
Yeah.
and that was the worst part about living over there. It rains so much.
yeah.
So much. Like, you go over to the coast on some days, and it feels like you're, like, walking through a mister. You know the misters down there on Adams?
Yeah.
Like, at the coast?
Yeah.
It's like that a lot.
See, I didn't mind. See, I was in Seattle for 6 years before I lived here.
Ugh.
And I didn't mind the misting. I mean, I would much rather the mist than just the downpour.
I just don't like getting wet.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's just a hassle.
Yeah.
Really. Like,
That is true. It's a hassle.
and then when it's raining at night, like, because my eyes, I have astigmatism, so even with glasses, I still get the pyramiding and, like, the light rays just because of the shape of my eyes. So, like, at night when it's raining, trying to drive, even with the glasses on, it's a battle. It really is. Like, it's not pretty.
Yeah.
Looks like a bad acid trip when all these different colors.
I was going to say, I'm thinking, well, wait a minute, that's not normal to see all of that. Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Well, I wouldn't know what a bad acid trip is like, but I mean, I've seen demonstration. Like what people supposedly
what they talk about. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, did you watch any of the debate the other night?
No interest. But I did. Check this out. I did, and I put this in here. Benny put the picture up. Biden put it yesterday.
He put that on?
He absolutely did. To show unity for 9/11.
Oh, that's funny.
I could not. But that'd be like, that's almost sacrilegious. That'd be like, if I went to, like, a press conference after a Yankees versus Red Sox game. And Aaron Judge, the Yankee star, has a Boston Red Sox hat on. You know what I mean? Like, what in the world is this guy thinking? Like,
well, what he's thinking is that he's not under the pressure of running. That's what he's thinking.
Yeah, he damn sure wouldn't have wore that hat if he was still running for president.
No way. No. Yeah. No, he actually looks pretty happy there, So, yeah.
No, I did not watch the debate. And I've seen a couple little things, but I could care less. Like, I think neither option's a good option in my eyes. So
no, and it was I watched the entire thing, and
you don't get that time of your life back, BC.
No, but it
younger.
was. But I wanted to. I wanted to see if either one of them would answer real questions, and neither one of them did. No. Yeah,
that's what I heard. I heard there was a lot of lying and a lot of just dodging.
Yeah, well, and it was. I mean, it just is what it was. So
it's embarrassing when other countries call us the laughing stock of the world, like the UK. I have some friends that live in the UK, and they say that, according to the people over there, we're a joke. Like,
well, but I think it's kind of like, nobody really has a perspective on what a whole country thinks, but certainly, because there's a variety of opinions everywhere on.
We're the laughing stock of the world, BC.
Yeah.
Politically, we are.
Yeah.
100%.
Well, I don't buy that.
Oh, you must not be watching the same world I'm watching.
Oh, really? What poll What poll did you look at that represents accurately?
I just listen to people and
that's
pay
exactly
attention.
the point I'm saying.
Yeah.
Is that the
you think our politics are good?
I don't think our politics. I mean, when you compare South American countries where presidents or candidates
Those are
killed,
third world countries. I'm talking like
no,
real
I'm
countries.
just saying
here.
is there are problems everywhere, and I'm not going to throw the U.S. under the bus and just say, yeah, everybody's laughing at us. It's like, are there people in other countries that look at us and laugh?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. A lot. A lot
Yeah.
of them.
And I'm not going to quantify that in any means because everybody.
We have a different opinion on that.
It's really easy to look past your own problems and look at some other country and say, man, but at least look at that, So
Yeah, I'm not saying that other countries don't have problems. I'm saying that our political system in America is a joke.
well, and I don't. I guess
not good.
I guess at the end of the day, I don't care what other people think about our political system. That's part of it. It's like, I mean, is it flawed? Absolutely.
Completely.
Yeah. Is it worse than other systems? No.
I
think
wouldn't
that's
know.
really hard.
I don't have other systems. Like I don't know other systems.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
Yeah. So, but I don't. I mean, but it was. I guess my. Coming back to the debate, it was like. Yeah. It was super. I just really wish that people would answer real life questions. Which, talking about this, we are going to have the EOA Live and the Chamber of Commerce are sponsoring a forum, which will not be like the debate that we watched on Monday. If you watched that,
because it's not a debate.
It's not a forum. Yeah. So there's going to be a candidate forum for the commissioner candidates and for the sheriff candidates, and that is going to be on October the 3rd at 6 p.m. at the LeGrand High School. That'll be on our network, and it'll probably be also on the Chamber of Commerce Facebook page. So, but anyhow, there is if you want to submit a question for that forum, and it's not going to be a debate, it will be a forum, then you can go to formquestion.com, submit a question, or you can also scan that code. So, and we can, you can submit questions there.
But make sure that's not guaranteeing that your question will be used.
Absolutely not.
Yeah. Just so people know that.
And if you want to increase the success of your question actually going forward, then ask a question that is relevant to local stuff and that is not pointed at one particular candidate. So.
Conklin had their first responders launch yesterday. That's really cool that they do that. Top that. I think yesterday was the 5th year anniversary where he buys all the first responders in the area that can show up.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
They're putting vape detectors in bathrooms in schools now. The vape pens.
Yeah, right.
So they're putting detectors because you can't. There's no smoke, right? So they're putting detectors that detect vape. The crazy thing is the company that's paying for them is Juul, the company that makes the vapes that target minors.
Is that must be part of the lawsuit or
I don't know, but it's crazy. Like they target minors with these like fruity, colorful, vapes, and then they turn around and say, "Let me get your kid hooked on nicotine," and then get them busted at school for sneaking in the bathroom and doing it.
Yeah.
It's like it doesn't make a lot of sense.
I think a part of that is a legal mitigation. So it's like, rather than us put you out of business, then you've got to make efforts to make it so that minors don't. Yeah. So, but.
Yeah, let's target minors and then make efforts to not.
Right.
It's crazy. And vapes are really bad for you. They have there's acrolein in it, which is a weed killer, and they've proven that it does acute lung damage. Like acute meaning like right away, like not over time.
Yeah.
It's crazy, man. I don't understand. Like, I don't understand that. I really don't.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense. Nope, not at all.
All right. Well, hey, you want to do sports?
Let's do it.
Okay.
AM Sports Report brought to you by Northwest Furniture and Mattress. If you're looking for home furnishings, transform your living space with Flex Steel Furniture. That's more than just stylish, it's designed for life. Find your perfect piece at Northwest Furniture and Mattress. Sports-wise, not much has happened between Tuesday and today, but I'll tell you that EOU Cross Country kicks off their season on the 20th at the CCC Preview in Portland. The cool thing about this for the athletes is this is also where they'll run the CCC Championship in, I believe, November. So they'll get an idea of what that's going to look like when it comes time for the CCC Championship. EOU women's soccer plays Friday in Caldwell against University of California, Merced. That game is at 3 o'clock Mountain Time. EOU volleyball has its home opener tomorrow at 6 versus Northwest. Then they turn around and play Evergreen on Saturday at 4. And both of those games are at Quinn, so get up there and cheer these ladies on. They lost a heartbreaker on Saturday to Southern, who was ranked number 5 in the country. So we might see a little disruption in the next poll for us, but I would imagine we'll stay in the top 10. EOU football goes to Spokane for a non-conference game with Whitworth at 1 on Saturday. And finally, for EOU, men's soccer is in Fullerton, California for a 3 p.m. kickoff today versus Hope International. And then they go up the road to Riverside on Saturday for a 3 p.m. game versus La Sierra University. I sat down with Daniel Kropp, a junior midfielder from Berlin, and Tawanda Rice, a senior defender forward from Zimbabwe, for the sports show this week. So be on the lookout for that. I didn't put a clip in it for today, but that'll probably come out tomorrow. LHS volleyball is at home today versus Vail for a 6 p.m. non-league contest, while the girls soccer goes to Fruitland on Saturday for a 12:30 Mountain Time kickoff. Boys soccer hosts Umatilla today at 4 o'clock. LHS boys at Community Stadium. Around the Valley football-wise, Imbler will play Doofer tomorrow night at 7 p.m. at Community Stadium. It's a neutral site game, so it's right here up at EOU at 7 o'clock if you want to watch some Imbler football. Elgin is on the road for a 7 p.m. kickoff tomorrow night versus Lyle. Cove goes to Crane tonight for a Thursday game at 7:15 versus the Mustangs. Union hosts Sherman tomorrow night at 7 p.m. And finally, Powder Valley goes to Riverside tonight for another Thursday night game at 7:30 to take on the Pirates. Once again, there's a lot of people snapping pictures around the Valley when it comes to sports. So if you know somebody or if you yourself got some good shots, send them to me at Kyle@eoalive.tv, and I'll include them in my AM Sports Report. And then the last thing, the fundraiser, September 21st for Cade's Courage. All you can eat breakfast, bacon and pancakes at 8 a.m., and this is all at the local. All you can eat tri-tip from noon on. Cornhole tournament at 5, a beer wagon from noon to 9. Eye for an Eye concert at 5, Jeff Carmen Band at 6:30, and Caleb Lathrop, who's the headliner, at 8 o'clock. The silent auction and raffle will go from 8 a.m. to 7:30 p.m. And there was a QR code on the screen right there you can scan to get tickets to everything. The cool thing about this is everything is donated, so every penny goes to the family in Cade's battle of his life. I mean, this is life-defining, life-changing for this kid. And it was cool that at the roundup, they honored 3 kids, and Caleb, he was one of them. Like, I don't remember what it's called, like the Ring of Gold or something like that. And they are all 3 juvenile cancer people fighting cancer. It was actually a really cool video. I saw it online. AM Sports Report brought to you by Northwest Furniture and Mattress, Big Red Rocking Chair, on Elm, off Adams, in LeGrand.
Good stuff. So, hey, the other day I met Bud Forrest.
Did you? Was he getting around all right?
He's
I know he's been hobbled.
Yeah, he's still hobbling around a little bit.
Yeah.
And
that was the first time you've met him?
Yeah.
He's been in here before.
No, he's not been in here when I was here.
Yeah, he's been in here a few times.
Yeah, so no, that was cool. If you're watching Bud this morning, thanks.
Where'd you meet him at?
Thanks for being. Was in the cell phone store.
You just happened to see him in there?
Yeah, no, he introduced himself.
Yeah,
so that was.
He's a nice guy.
That was good. Yeah, and it's funny. So at the game in Baker City, I guess that was last weekend. I had somebody came up to the van afterwards and said, "Hey, I watched your morning show, and yeah, you said you were going to be in the van, and here you are, you know." And so, yeah.
What did they think? You were just joking?
No, I don't know. But he was just trying to. But yeah, so
That's
yeah,
cool.
for those of you that watch our stuff on a regular basis, and you're out there, thanks for when you do see us, you know, taking the time to introduce yourself, and we don't really have much information about, you know, who watches unless they comment, who watches and how they're watching, on what device, what programs they're watching, you know, and so those kinds of things always help us, when people let us know, and it's encouraging, you know. So, all right, well, here in just a second we're gonna have, I got the weather. Thank you. So let's take a look outside. I was headed to the commercial. It's raining. It was kind of drizzly this morning. Let's look at that weather graphic minute. And so
67. Oh.
Yeah, so it looks like it's supposed to rain all day today. 96% humidity, or whatever that is, precipitation.
That.
Yeah, and then so it's supposed to be in the 70s and 60s.
It's never good when it says chance of rain, 100%.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, it's not, summer's not over yet.
Yeah.
I bet you we still have a week of hot left. So they're gonna sneak
of course
one in on us.
it'll come back with a vengeance. And
I mean, it is already halfway through September almost.
Yeah.
But lately, like the last few years, it's been weird. Like weather.
Well, what's always funny, not funny, but it's just weird, is that, you know, with winter being pushed forward, then it makes hunting more difficult. The hunting seasons haven't changed, and in fact, when we had a game and fish dude here, not game and fish, but
he was
ODFW person, yeah. Game and in Wyoming they call it game and fish. Anyhow, and the rutting season has not changed, and
but the weather has.
The weather has, right? Yeah, and so it's way. If you know anything more about hunting, it is way easier to be successful if you can see tracks and know the movement of the game. So anyhow, just is what it is. So all right, we'll be back in just a minute with Union County Commissioner Paul Anderes.
for a second and everybody. And she got up and did one of these.
All right, we're back with Union County Commissioner Paul Anderes. Thanks, Paul, for being with us today.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, and so you were talking about the roundup.
Pendleton Roundup yesterday.
Yeah.
Yep. I was a guest of Commissioner Nash, and it was a little bit of a different roundup because of the rain and how slippery that grass is. I was just telling the story about two of the princesses. Unfortunately, their horses slid out from underneath them. They were fine, and the horses were fine, but it wasn't the only one.
Yeah.
At one point during the rodeo, one of the pickup men, his horse slid and fell, and he came off his horse, and then the bull started to roll him a little bit. So yeah, it got a little.
So create a little drama.
Got a little Western yesterday. Yeah. Yep.
Got a little Western.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, always a great event, and you know, it's one of my favorites. Clearly, stock shows probably my favorite, but roundup I enjoy as well.
Well, good.
Are you paid to say that? The
I am
stock show
not.
part? Well, I mean, you are a Union County Commissioner.
I am not paid well. I guess technically, I worked for the people of Union County, but yeah, I worked with the stock show for 23 years
Right.
as an ag teacher, and was on for a very short time was in the leadership chairs, and
Yeah. But
stock show's got a very, very fond spot in my heart.
Yeah. But the stock show is an independent. They are not associated with Union County. I mean,
Correct.
they're not. It's
Correct.
not a.
Yep. It's a nonprofit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Yep. So. Yeah. All right. Well, good to have you with us, man.
Good to be here.
Yeah.
As always. So
Yeah.
I apologize for Tuesday. Apparently it was just a 24-hour bug. I'm fine now, and life is good.
Good. Yeah. So, did you get to see any of the debate the other day?
Watched a little bit of it. My wife and I come from different political parties, and both of us almost in unison said, "We can't watch. I can't watch it." And it's frustrating for everybody, I think. But I didn't watch a lot of it. No.
Yeah.
And what I thought was interesting, though, was it wasn't over probably more than an hour, and not locally, but out of the Portland station.
Yeah.
One of the candidates that's running for an office on the west side already had clips from the debate in their political ad.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
You know what bothers me, and it doesn't matter if this is national or local, when a candidate says, "Yeah, I'm going to do this," whatever it might be, or the other candidate will accuse them of you're going to do something. Yeah.
Right.
And they don't. There's not power in that position for them to do it. You know, whatever the topic is,
yes.
you're gonna do something national here, or whatever, and it's like, but no candidate with the power of their pen. I mean, things still have to go through two bodies of Congress, and I mean, there's a process, but all of the fear, and it goes both ways, pushing both ways. There, you are going to do this, or I am going to do this. And it's like, well, yeah, if you had control, and I was recently had a conversation with someone, and they were really, I mean, they're fearful, for sure, fearful, and I reminded them, it's like, yeah, okay, so the last time that a president, had the presidency in both bodies of Congress, there are two times that I can think of. And even then, they weren't able to accomplish anything.
They didn't roll over the other party.
No,
100%.
no, yeah.
But I see that happening at the state level
Right.
more so than the national level.
Right.
And we had conversations similar to this in our, sometimes I'll bring my coffee cup down and sit with the folks in the front of the office, and we talk about things, especially when this spring, when the primary, and as a person that's not been in office before,
Right.
can say almost anything as far as I'm going to.
Right.
And I mean, and I was guilty of it. I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that, and
Right.
which was really laying out my vision of what I wanted to do.
Right.
And then got into the office and very quickly realized, no, I couldn't do that.
Right.
Which is unfortunate, because then they go, well, you broke your promise.
Right. Yeah.
But and the other side of that coin is when somebody says, you need to, whatever it is, fill in the blank with whatever topic or whatever subject or whatever
Right.
thing they want you to do. And I don't have that kind of authority. I don't have that. I wish I did. I mean,
Right. Right.
yeah, thanks for giving me a whole lot more credit than I deserve as far as.
Right. But part of that, just managing expectations on both sides,
Right.
is like, I mean, that's a jungle just in and of itself.
Yep.
You
Yeah.
know, helping people is like, well, yeah, I appreciate that coaching, but it's just not that simple. It's more complicated than that. You know.
Yeah, and in my case, a lot of times, and I would tell you, people really don't like hearing this answer sometimes, and that is when it is really not within our
Right.
realm. Whether it's a city issue, one of my good friends, almost every time it snows anymore, he calls me and says, "Hey, my street's not plowed."
Right.
He lives in the city, and it's
Right.
become a running joke now. But at the same time, I don't have the authority to say plow a particular street. I don't even have that in the county.
Right.
And then the same thing is true if it's a state issue. I mean, I can advocate for them, and I can talk to our legislators at the state level, and or even the federal level. Same thing. And it's like, gosh, thank you again for that vote of confidence on the power that I hold in my office, but it doesn't happen that way.
Yeah.
So yeah. But
Yeah.
yeah. Speaking of feds, Congressman Bent's going to be in the area next few days. It sounds like he's going to take in part of the roundup and visit with some folks over there. It sounds like.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. Well, if any of his people are listening, he's come through here occasionally and spent some time with us, and we'd love to see him again. So,
I think he's on a pretty tight schedule. They're in session now.
Yeah.
Which, sometimes makes it really difficult for him to even make roundup. But
yeah. So, well, and going back briefly to, this topic that we were just talking about is like land use, for instance.
Mm-hmm.
People are super frustrated, especially with the housing complications and all of that. They're frustrated with not being able to build or whatever the case might be, and that is a deep hole. You and I have spent quite a bit of time talking about that, but people just don't know that the county doesn't you have influence, but there's very little control over that whatsoever.
We do, and this came to light just a couple weeks ago,
Yeah.
and I don't want to make this sound like I'm blaming cities, but cities have urban growth boundaries, and that's where the expansion of buildable land generally takes place.
Right.
On the county side, the planning department and the planning commission tries to guide, if someone were to try to do a big housing development, let's say at Alisal, that couldn't happen because of Oregon's land use laws.
Right.
But we did have the opportunity to change the local land use laws, and this was, like I say, a couple weeks ago. We had some people that were not very happy with us, me in particular, but they're called accessory dwelling units. And the Oregon legislature made it allowable so that, and I want to make sure I get this right, within 100 feet of the existing home, no more than 900 square feet, a standalone structure that people could live in.
Mm-hmm.
Second home. Some people call it a mother-in-law
Right.
house, things like that. The parameters are that it has to be, state parameters are, it has to be on a minimum of 2 acres in size. So it's not like if you had a lot like where your house is kind of on the edge of town, you
Wouldn't have enough space there.
you wouldn't fit
qualify.
the requirement.
Right, yeah.
The one thing that we did put on it, though, to kind of monitor it and not make it explode, was that it's a conditional use permit. So each and every one of those
Has to be
has to
approved
go
into-
through the planning commission. And I haven't asked this week, but so far we haven't had any applications.
So that has not been allowed in the past.
Correct, and that was a state level, and then with their legislation, they allowed it as a possibility at the local level.
Right.
And some of the pushback we got on it was, it's gonna dry up wells, things like that. And for me, it was in a 900 square foot house, you've got probably not more than 2 people living there.
Yeah.
And the law does allow, if it's approved, to tap into the same water source and the same septic source, depending on what DEQ says about that.
Yeah, well, and one of the things that I ran into, which I'm trying to figure out, I have mixed emotions about. One of the things I ran into when I was running for county commissioner is that people who are fortunate enough to have a home and some property that's buildable outside of the city limits, out in the county, and that's a wanted thing. I mean, I understand the state of Oregon wants people to build within city limits, but clearly there are people that are not living in city limits, and they're very fortunate and they like that life,
I'm one of those people.
Right.
Very much like the neighborhood I live in.
Right. But what's funny is that I heard this a couple of different times where people they understand they're fortunate to do that, but they really don't want anybody else to have. They're not really interested in having neighbors. I mean, and so so it's like, yeah, I'm concerned about the housing crisis just as long as you don't. I mean, it's the NIMBY thing, not in my backyard.
Right. Yeah, and and I understand that. I mean,
I do too.
And we've had a number of houses built in my neighborhood. They're all within the legal parameters, and I really like my neighbors, so that's a good thing. But I could understand that someone, somebody encroaching on their elbow room, if you will.
Yeah.
And I think we've talked about this before. Oregon's land use laws are 50 years old.
You've said that, and
51 years old now, and it's like we probably need to modernize them somehow. But part of the issue there is if there's one portion of it that's modernized, if you will, then the fear is that it's just going to be blown out. I mean, and you can look at the Nampa Caldwell Meridian area and
just the spread.
I wouldn't want that in our county.
Well, and it's kind of funny because I had people on both sides. People would say, "How can we, have more buildable land in the county?" I had people asking me that, and then I had other folks who was like, "Man, I do not want to see this 40-acre thing out in the middle of the valley become a housing project," And I was able to very securely tell them that will never happen as it is in the state of Oregon.
Yep.
I mean, the very foundation of the land use laws is you can't take farmland that's productive and turn it into housing.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, that's at the very core of it, right?
It is.
You think?
The director of land conservation and development, who oversees all that land use planning law in Oregon, and tries to guide wise development, if you will. I had the opportunity to meet with her and some of her staff a couple months ago, actually. Excuse me. And I said, "Here's what I don't understand." I said, "We are fairly landlocked in Union County on where we've got buildable inventory. How is it when I drive down Interstate 5 and just south of Woodburn on the east side of the freeway, and I am not saying this lightly, some of the most productive farm ground in the entire world,
for sure,
has got housing development after housing development after housing development on it. I don't understand that." And they really didn't have an answer for me.
Yeah. Well, and let's drill down into something. So help me. So if we have, there are event spaces out in our county, okay, where people have events and so on and so forth. But one of the things that they're not able to do is to have a public restroom. Is that right?
Correct.
I mean, and so.
Well, actually,
they can have a public restroom on wheels, right?
Right. Okay. Well, and it depends on where or when it started, things like that. I mean, you look at Camp Elkanah. Clearly, they have facilities and some like that. But if you're referencing some of the wedding venues in the county portion of the county, That's true, and that part of that goes exactly to what we were talking about.
Right.
Currently, Oregon land use laws make that a conditional use, and under that conditional use, the rules that they're able to allow that prohibit having a water and septic on site.
Does that, so it has to be grandfathered in? Like, for instance, are Grange's event facilities?
Most of those, not all of them, but most of those are grandfathered in because
they were built before the land use laws.
Yeah, prior to.
Because I know the Grange out here in the valley, it has bathrooms.
Pleasant, yep.
Yeah, Pleasant.
Yep.
There you go.
Yep.
And doesn't the one out in Somerville too?
And I don't.
I think it does.
Yeah.
Yeah. So those must have been like
Prior, yep.
Okay, that makes sense. So if
Yep.
it was made before 51 years ago, is that what you said?
Yeah.
So 51 years or earlier, or older.
Yeah.
They can have
73,
bathrooms. That's
74.
crazy, man. Why did that? Do you know where's that come from? Like, why?
You mean the overall land
Yeah,
use?
when they changed the law, like when they said you can't have running sewer or water. Like, why?
I don't know that they got that prescriptive in there, but it's just that's the way it's evolved because of the allowable use on it, and that it's. So again, I mean, and there's some things I think probably need to be modernized a little bit.
So, and when they say conditional use, I mean, a lot of times that is, yeah, you can ask, but we're going to say no.
True.
Is that, and
Yes.
that's how it has been.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, okay, well, it's.
And then the other one, which tends to be an issue, is, well, right now, my neighbor is doing X, Y, or Z that isn't legal.
Okay.
And it is a really complicated process to go through the enforcement side of it.
Oh, interesting.
Yep. It takes, I mean, it's a legal process. This is probably not a great way to explain it, but it's a little bit like evicting someone almost. I mean, you have to send them letters, give them opportunity to correct it. If they don't, then they get into an enforcement, and that involves the planning department in this case and the sheriff's department working together to enforce that.
Is it the county that enforces it?
Outside of city limits, yes.
Outside of city limits,
Yes.
okay,
Yes.
got you. Yeah,
And that kind of goes to that same discussion. You know, oh, hey, my neighbor's putting up a whatever, and it's like, well, you live in the city. Here's who you need to visit with on that. So.
Yeah.
And we do have actually very soon our new planner is going to start.
Oh.
Feel very fortunate to get one, and a strong candidate, very strong candidate. And our current planner, Scott Hartel, is going to transition with the new planner, and then he's going to work on a couple he's going to work on a couple projects, and then the final day will be in April of 25.
Oh,
and,
wow.
Appreciate it. I mean, and I've learned volumes from him.
Yeah.
He knows the law inside and out, frontwards and backwards.
Yeah. No, he's a very knowledgeable person. I spent some time with him.
Yep.
Yeah. So let's switch topics a little bit. So there's a truancy
ordinance.
Ordinance, yeah.
Yes.
It's been making its way through all of the cities. Why don't you talk about that and where that's at right now?
Okay. Right now, I am unsure of which. Let me back up. Superintendents came to the district attorney and the sheriff and said, we need a truancy policy, and that is for clearly not homeschooled students or online students, but students that are not attending for whatever reason, any kind of educational, or will sign up for a local school district and then just not show up anymore, or show up every few days and then take however much time off. The ability to enforce that truancy, which says your child needs to be in school of some sort.
Okay.
Or else.
Right.
And there is a fine attached to it. Again, my suspicion is we're not going to get to that fine portion of it. It's going to be a letter from the school district, and then maybe a visit from the sheriff's department, and then hopefully at some point they're compelled to send their kids to school.
Yeah. And George has been on the show and has talked about this.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. Superintendent Mendoza was very instrumental in this. Superintendent Wells from Union. Actually, all the superintendents in the county have been very supportive. Well, actually, they were part of the group that crafted it, and but because of jurisdictions, it would be a school resource officer that would really be the ultimate enforcer of this.
Okay.
So in order to that to happen, the towns have to have their ordinance written in such a way that allows the sheriff's department to
Actually do it.
function
Right.
in their town as the authority.
Got it. Okay.
And so the process is it goes through the school boards. After school boards, it goes to the city council, and then once all the city councils of the incorporated cities in Union County agree to it, if that happens, which I suspect will happen, then it will come to the county commissioners, and then, like any other ordinance, we'll have a first reading, second reading, and then it will go into effect if at least 2 of us vote for it.
Okay.
So, yeah, and really, this is, when you think about my job and what we can do and can't
Right,
do, this
right.
was kind of nice because they came to us with an issue, and it's taken a long time to get there, but we're going to be able to provide them with a viable solution.
Yeah.
In 22-23 in Oregon, more than 40% of students missed 16 days or more.
Yeah.
We're the fourth highest in the country.
Yep.
It's crazy. Like that's COVID. That really like those.
Or recovering
It was
from-
like
yeah.
over 100%
Right.
increase.
Yeah.
Like it was 40% of kids missing 16 days or more. Like, come on, that's not good.
Yeah.
That's not good at all.
Excuse me.
Yep.
I'm sure one of my kids was one of them too. Like
Yeah.
I'm not joking. Like
Yeah.
it's crazy. Like it was almost like it was acceptable.
Yeah.
And now, like you said, with the truancy laws that they're with especially here, like it's like we for a little while for kids it was acceptable. Like, well, not acceptable, but
Became the norm.
it was normal. Yeah, it was normal. And then now it's like it's kind of like that the vape thing. Like, hey, we're gonna it's okay, we're gonna pass this to you, but hey, we're gonna turn around and smack you on the hand for it.
Yeah.
I mean, I agree. We got to do something. We got to keep kids in school.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, what else is going on in the commissioner world that you want to talk to us about?
I've been working with, speaking of Superintendent Mendoza. He, President Ryan from the university, and President Davis from the hospital have been working on trying to find some solutions for childcare. And I think you've heard me talk about this before. I mean, it's a three-legged stool as far as I'm concerned. Lack of housing, we've already talked about. Inability to hire people to work in any business, and then if by some miracle you've got those two solved, then those families don't have childcare. So we're working on trying to figure out a path forward on how to get childcare, more stable childcare in our communities, and which hopefully will take some pressure off of families so that they can work more readily. And then we've got a lot of people working on that housing issue right now, and Northeast Oregon Housing Authority just recently opened up 80-some units over at Timber Ridge. So we're making progress on all of those, but I'm particularly excited about the group that's working on the child care, and I think we're going to be able to get something pretty good set up.
That would be awesome.
Yeah.
Because that is not only is the availability, but the cost is.
Yeah, exactly.
That was my question.
Right.
Is there a lack of childcare, or is there just an inability to pay for it?
Well, what it becomes is, if you've got, even with the minimum wage raising over the last few years, you're spending all of your wages in childcare.
Absolutely.
And so some people are opting not to work because it doesn't.
It's cheaper.
It doesn't cost them money
Right,
to work.
Yeah. I know somebody that the mom works full-time, dad works a full-time job and 2 part-time jobs, and they obviously they got to put the kid, they have to have some, and they barely get by, barely. It's crazy. Like I don't know how people do it.
Yeah,
I
and
really don't.
again, hopefully we're going to be able to give a viable option to those folks for childcare, because it clearly is a problem.
Could you
Yeah.
imagine if we paid teachers what we pay childcare providers? What does a childcare provider make per hour per kid?
I
Couple
no idea.
dollars? $3 per kid?
Yeah, I don't know.
So if you got 30 kids in your class, how much you making? You know what I mean? We don't.
I
Teachers
do.
don't get paid anywhere near what childcare providers make. It's crazy. It's another one of those things that just dumbfounds me. I don't get it. I don't get it.
Well, and I'll tell you, I mean, I have a daughter over on the west side, and I mean, as complicated as childcare is here, in the cities, it's like it's a whole nother world. You
Oh,
know?
yeah.
I mean, especially with the cost part of it. I mean, it's, you know, what somebody it's like double, 2 or 3 times what somebody would pay for childcare here over on.
I
the
lived
west
on the west
Yeah.
side for 15 years. I raised kids that, up
Yeah.
until I moved back over here, and we put our kids, all 3 of them, in preschool. We paid for preschool for
Right.
when they were 3 and 4.
Right.
But outside of that, we worked opposite shifts.
Yeah.
We just couldn't afford it, and B, I don't want somebody else raising my kids.
Yeah.
Like I've never been a fan of sending your kids to the babysitter. I mean, every once in a while, babysitter, go out, this, that, but having somebody have them all day long, like your parental influence kind of goes out the window a little bit in my eyes.
Yeah.
Yeah, the thing I see, this is totally off topic. The thing I see with young kids and young families these days is they want, a nice house, and they want nice cars, and they want, it's not hard, it's not difficult for them to get themselves over leveraged, and then to pay for that thing that you want, you've got to work 2 full-time jobs,
Yeah.
and then you've got to farm your kids out, and you got to figure out how to pay that off, and I mean, I totally get that and understand that desire, but man, just those little, I'm going to have a little nicer car, and that means a car payment, and we're going to buy a little bigger house than what we really need at this point, and you have that, I mean, and all of that just complicates.
And there's a lot of different examples of just
Right.
that, and it really comes down to, do you own the car, or does the car own you,
Right.
or the house, or whatever it
Right,
might be.
yeah.
And I think, my children are raised and out in the world now.
Yeah.
But my wife and I were incredibly fortunate with the child care we had, and our child care provider ran a school schedule. Both of us took, I think, almost exclusively teachers' children.
Yeah.
And so those schedules would line up really well. But, in the summertime when I did go fight fire and try to make that extra money and put a little more in the bank, it was stressful trying to get childcare for the kids.
Well, and that is, I mean, one of the advantages of like the university and the hospital and the county working together to figure out childcare is there's an understanding of real life schedules. You know what I mean? And so there are often times that childcare will set up, but they're not really attached to the working schedules of the people they're serving.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
And a very clear example of that is President Davis. I mean, his facility runs 24 hours a day, 365 days a year.
Right.
They-
right.
they-
right. There's no.
They don't close the doors on the hospital.
Right. Yeah.
But-
There's not very many childcares that take kids during the knock shift.
right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah, we're going to be open from 11 to 7. Like,
Yeah.
bring them on in. Like, that just doesn't happen.
Yeah.
You know what go ahead.
No, please.
Oh, I was just going to say the other fallout from that, like the whole childcare thing, is like a lot of people end up using like technology and TV or video games to babysit their kids, and we see that now in kid. I hate to say it, but Generation Z and millennials, they're because they were raised on these, their attention spans are different than it's just the fallout from like the lack of childcare and the lack of the ability to pay for it is a lot bigger than people really
Right.
look at.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
It is. So, yeah, working on that. Speaking of Grand Run Hospital, I got to tell you, I'm pretty excited with the opening of the new portion of the facility. I've had the opportunity, gosh, probably half a dozen times as it's been being built to tour through there, and I think it's going to be a great addition, not just to LeGrand, but Union County and even beyond. And they're recruiting some medical professionals that are going to be key to that, and I think it's going to be a great thing, and really excited to have the community have the opportunity to look at that.
Yeah, and that's coming right up the end of this month.
Yes.
Yeah. The 27th, I want to say.
That sounds,
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, and 2 days before that, the 25th, I think, is when they're having, the LeGrand School District is having the opening house of the Wildcat Center.
Correct.
Middle school.
Yeah. And so 2 gigantic projects. Certainly the hospital has, been a long-term
Right.
significant, but still those are impactful,
Right.
know,
Yeah.
on our communities. Yeah. And Grand Round Hospital we do work for them. They're a client of ours. I have, my wife and daughter work for Grand Round Hospital, so I'm pretty biased. But the thing I think about recently is that, if you want to talk about, and I mention this all the time, if you want to talk about the impact of shopping local, shop local, at your own hospital, shop local at your own university. Those things make a significant difference. Yeah.
And I understand clearly your bias, but mine is a little bit different, and that is very simply, and I believe this with every fiber of my being, if it weren't for Grand Run Hospital and the staff that they've got up there, I would not be sitting here today.
You said that before.
Yeah, and I think it bears repeating because Dr. Gardner and Jamie Joe at Elgin Clinic and the care I got is the reason I am still alive.
Yeah.
I wonder why in small towns you always have like people that like in Dallas where I used to live is very similar, a smaller hospital. But a hospital. Mm-hmm. Why is there always like a group of people, like especially like on social media, that's like, oh, every experience I've ever had there is terrible.
Yeah,
I've never had I've been to that hospital like not as an adult a lot, but like my teenage years, I never had a bad experience there. Like I've never been mistreated. Like nobody in my family has ever. They've always taken good care of my mom. But you still see all these people like bashing it. It's like where does that come from? Is that like?
I have a theory.
Yeah,
I don't know if it's accurate or not, but I have a theory.
Yeah.
And that is, years ago I was on a fire and they used kind of the same analogy. But when you go into Grand Ron Hospital, generally speaking, there is something wrong. You're sick.
True.
You're hurt. Or you
have a family member that's sick or
and
hurt.
The stress on that, and are they going to be okay? And if everything doesn't go really, really well, that can very easily, because you're on edge already, can turn into a negative experience.
So even the little things, like all of a sudden become these major things to you. That makes sense.
Yeah. And
that's a good theory.
Thank you.
I like that.
Thank you.
That kind of like it actually cleared it up in my head a little bit.
Yeah. And again, I don't know if that's accurate or not, but that's kind of the way I've wrapped my head around it, because I see it, and it's like that is not my experience with Grand Ron Hospital.
Me neither. I've never had a bad experience there.
Yeah.
I've only ever had one bad hospital experience in my life, and I broke my wrist. I was on a drill and couldn't get off of it, and it spun my hand around. And the bad experience was I was in pretty good pain. I broke both bones. I had ice on it. I get to the hospital and like after about 3 hours, X-rays, everything. The doctor comes in and goes, you shouldn't have iced that. And I said, well, it hurt. I was like, I was doing it for pain, not for anything else. And he goes, do you need anything for pain? And I'm like, I've been here for 3 hours. Like, no, I just want to go home. Like, you're asking me if I need something for pain after I've already went through the hard part. Like, just get me out of here. But that's the only bad experience I've ever had at a hospital in my life. And that's not that bad in my eyes.
Well, and I think that with hospitals or with universities or whatever, whenever you have I mean, the hospital has over 700 employees, you know. And
largest private employer in
Yeah.
Union County.
yeah, and so what are the chances of, you know, you having a negative experience with a person? Yeah, I mean, that could happen, or whatever the case might be. But that, you know, that doesn't mean that everybody's like that. You can't color the whole hospital. I mean, it's the same way, you know, with the county sheriff. It's the same way with the police department, or whatever the case might be. You can't, you know, you might have a negative experience with an officer, but that doesn't color the entire thing.
Right. Yeah.
And that's not fair.
And I think too, part of it is once you do have that negative vision of that, it's tough to get it to a positive one.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, okay. Well, what else is going on in the commissioner world?
Been working on a couple of things going into the new session. Legislative session starts in January. Fairly confident that Commissioner Nash from Wallowa County is going to be our new senator to replace the retiring Bill Hansel. And Todd and I are very good friends. We talk almost every day, and sometimes if a day or two goes by and we haven't talked, it's like, I wonder what are we doing here? But pretty excited about that, and I think he's going to be a really strong leader for this region, and second largest Senate district in the state. It goes from the Baker County line, so it's got on the east side, it's got Union and Wallowa, so it goes all the way to the Idaho border, Washington border, and then all the way across to just outside of the Dalles in Wasco County. Takes a portion of that, takes in all of the Confederated tribal land not Confederated, the Warm Springs Indian Reservation, and goes right up to the edge of Madras. So, I mean, if you went from, let's say you went from Bogans or Imnaha to outside of Madras, that's a pretty good hike.
So it's just the largest, like, land-wise. It's
Second. Oh, they're all the same population.
Yeah, same
give or
population.
take.
Yeah, because it takes that much land in Eastern Oregon to get that many people.
Right. Yeah, and the largest is Senator Finley's seat, which is just to the south of us, and includes Baker Ground, Mount Hur, and goes all the way to Lakeview, and I want to say it goes.
Does it go all the way down to California?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it does.
Yep.
It's all the way. It's
Yep.
that whole.
And it takes in a good portion of Lake County as well, and then that on the other swings up and takes in Madras. So again, that's the largest, and then the second largest is.
Which makes sense because there's, like a town with 800 people, and then 15 miles down the road there's another town with 700 people. Like over there on the west side, you have.
So yeah, and I don't know that I had computed that all of the districts they try and have the same population.
Yep.
Approximately.
Well, it's based on there's 2 House districts in every Senate district.
Okay.
And the House districts are based on population.
Oh,
Yeah, because of votes, right?
Right.
Yeah, because of voting.
Huh.
Makes
Well,
sense.
Well, Paul, thank you. Anything else you want to mention before we quit?
Gosh, that went by fast.
Yeah.
It always does.
It does.
And I appreciate being here. Phone number at the county, 541-963-1001. I make every effort to get back to people as quickly as possible. Sometimes I don't get back as soon as I should, but I try to make sure I get back to everybody. And then Anderes at union-county.org is the email.
Cool.
P. Anders at Union County.
union-county.org, and it's Anderes.
All right.
I've typed your name a few times.
Okay, good.
So it's Pandarus.
Anderes, yeah.
Pandarus at union-county.org.
Yeah, and I will tell you, if it's auto-generating, it goes very quickly to pandemic.
Huh.
Oh, that's funny.
Pandemic instead of Paul Anders.
Yeah.
Pandarus.
But thank
Alrighty.
you. Appreciate the opportunity to visit, and life is good.
Well, thank you. Thank you for being here, man. All right. You want to get us out of here?
Let's do it. On this day, September 12th, the day after 9/11, 1624. 1624. This is a long time ago. The first submarine is publicly tested in London on the Thames River for King James I. What do you think that submarine was made out of?
Had to have been made out of wood.
It would have to be, right?
Yeah.
Or they didn't have plastic.
1611.
How do you? I would love to see that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that was before cast iron.
I would love to see that thing. Like what their idea of a submarine was.
How would you get a wooden submarine to float?
1624.
Yeah, or to submerge.
Don't know. 1857 on this day, 423 people die when steamship Central America, which was also named the Ship of Gold, sinks in a hurricane off of South Carolina. This ship had literally tons of gold from the California gold rush on it, and it went down just off the coast of South Carolina in 1857. 1910 on this day, the first known United States female police officer, Elise Stebbins Wells, is appointed by the Los Angeles Police Department. 1981, the animated cartoon series The Smurfs by Hanna-Barbera is first broadcast in North America. Where did it broadcast before then? The Smurfs. Is it Canadian? UK?
Hanna-Barbera?
It has like kind of a British feel to it, like when you think about like but yeah, I don't know.
I have no idea.
I didn't look that up. 2018 on this day, the oldest known human drawing is discovered. A hashtag-like abstract drawing with red ochre, 73,000 years old in the Blombos Cave in South Africa. That's crazy. 70,000 years old. The first known human drawing. 70,000. That's a long time ago. It's a long time ago. On this day, the #1 movie in America is Time Cop with Jean-Claude Van Damme. 1994 was the year for that. 1994. That picture could not have been made in 1994. That's way too clear of a picture for that. You know what I mean? Even the movie boxes didn't look like that in the 90s. They were way more fuzzy than that. The quote of the day comes from Mark Manson. Confidence is not a belief in success. It's a comfort with failure. One more time. Confidence is not a belief in success. It's a comfort with failure.
All right.
Boom.
Thank you, man.
That's all we got.
Yeah, and I
Tomorrow night, Pendleton, right? Pendleton, who they playing? Pendleton's playing.
I can't. Yeah.
I'll tell the people. Hang on.
We'll be
right
in
off the
Pendleton
top of my head.
on the side of the hill. You should see that setup. That's crazy. So.
Let me find out who's Pendleton playing tomorrow, so I can tell the people real fast.
Yeah.
Pendleton is playing Redmond.
Okay.
Tomorrow. At home, 7 o'clock. We'll live stream that right here on the EOA Live Network.
And then next Tuesday, George Mendoza LeGrand Superintendent George Mendoza will be right here in the studio. So, All right. Hey, thank you, Paul.
See you
Thank you.
Tuesday. Thanks,
Yeah.
Paul.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. We'll see you guys later.